Well, hey everybody, I'm John Rethlin, and this is a double retro review of the WWE Raw and WCW Nitro episodes from August 9th, 1999. And yeah, you might be wondering about this. Well, it's a historic date if you happen to be a longtime wrestling fan, or even if you studied up on history, because on Raw, it was the WWE debut of Chris Jericho. On the WCW end, it was the go-home show for Road Wild 99, the last one that was in Sturgis, because then they ended the Road Wild concept, which was probably smart because, oh yeah, they didn't have paid admission for this fucking thing. Good, well, the Road Wild pay-per-view, that is. But let me just say this. Both these shows were goddamn messes. It's pretty bad that Raw was actually the better show. Kinda. Even though Nitro had more wrestling, it was 3 hours still at this point. Nitro would only go back to 2 hours, I think, by the beginning of 2000. I think that was about the time where it happened, which was probably smart, because 3 hours of a Monday night program is too much. Oh, hi, current WWE. I didn't see you there. It's kind of scary how WWE and WCW are sort of mirroring each other. Despite all the talent, TV exposure, and all that and everything, that there's quite a bit of a mess. But another story for another day. With this double retro review, really I'm just going to run through some stuff and I'll see how long this goes. You guys have seen this stuff before, and thank you once again for the great feedback on these videos and any other videos that are done, solo videos or videos myself and the Dervinator do. So anyway, here we go. This is taking place in Chicago, the Raw episode, that is. And it starts off with the Millennium Countdown, the whole thing that had been happening where it's like suddenly, 85 minutes. Well, holy crap, this is actually going to happen during this episode. So what in the world is going to happen, everybody's wondering. The Rock comes down and talks about the Big Show. He throws out a line, "I'm going to take a leak. This guy sucks." That's what the fans say. Just goes, making fun of him and everything, like only The Rock can. And then the Unholy Alliance, which was Big Show and Undertaker, come down and they start attacking The Rock. Then xPac does a run-in. And Road Dogg does a run-in. And then Kane does a run-in. And finally they're able to clear house and everything. Rock doesn't want their help because he's still in the midst of, being a babyface. I mean, he just had turned babyface 4 months ago. Actually, about 3 months ago. So he's still that tweener, even though the crowd was just going to cheer him no matter what. But this segment was fine. It was fine. Then we get a limo pulling up, and it's Shawn Michaels. He's the commissioner, remember? And yeah, that happens. And then we get xPac and Kane challenging the Acolytes for the tag titles later that night. Because reasons. We're 13 days away from SummerSlam 99 by this point, and it's in full swing to hype up SummerSlam. And boy, let me tell you, not a lot of wrestling. There were 7 matches on this show, and I think the main event was the longest one, and it was 8 minutes, maybe. I mean, look, I get it. Wrestling, the matches aren't always going to drive the product, but for God's sakes, there was solo wrestling during the Attitude Era, especially on Raw. It actually got ridiculous. SmackDown was the wrestling show, and it was only around for about a year and a half of the Attitude Era before that ended. But anyway, Christian versus Gangrel. This is where the Brood had split up, and the Hardy Boys were going to be joining Gangrel to be part of the new Brood. This is when they were splitting up for Michael Hayes and everything. So the match is super short. It's maybe 3.5 minutes. The Hardys run down and they distract, and then Christian gets hit with the Impaler after some blood to the face because, Gangrel did the whole blood spit thing. So he took the blood from the thing, or fruit, or corn syrup, or whatever the fuck it was, with extra food coloring, spit that in Christian's face, hit the Impaler, and then pins Christian. And Ed runs down to try and fight off the Hardys, but then he gets hit with the Impaler. So the Hardys are doing this whole beat-up thing. Michael Hayes comes down. "What are you doing? What are you doing, guys? I brought you to prominence. Hey, don't go with Gangrel, go with me." And then the Hardys start beating up Michael Hayes, which I actually cheered about because we all know what Michael Hayes is, but it was what it was. I will say that the Michael Hayes-Hardy pairing, even though it wasn't long-term, still, I think, did actually work pretty well, because Michael Hayes, for all his flaws, and there are plenty of them, he was pretty damn good with stables. I mean, especially, at least with the original Freebirds and stuff like that. Him, Gordy, and Roberts were great. Even though Gordy and Roberts were better wrestlers than Hayes could ever hope to be. But yeah, we get that. That was big old schmoz and everything. 3 minutes of wrestling and we're almost 30 minutes in. Well, then we get an Acolytes interview, and it's just hype for the tag title match. Later, we get Lawler interview with Jesse Ventura, who's going to be the special guest referee for what would end up being a triple threat match of Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mankind, and Triple H at SummerSlam for the WWE title. But at this time, it was only Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H. So he talks about being a Navy SEAL, and he was a legit Navy SEAL. So, I mean, hats off to him for that. This is also before Jesse Ventura went really insane with all the conspiracy theories. And when, the whole governor of Minnesota and all that. Triple H and China appear. Triple H runs down Ventura, big old asshole chance, and of course Ventura, I believe they're talking to you. And then here's Shawn. And fucking Christ, Shawn was in full-on pillhead mode at this point. I mean, I know he's cleared up since then, but good God, he was a wreck at this point. He was slurring his words. He couldn't even say World Wrestling Federation. Yikes. I mean, yikes. This was scary. He does stare down with Triple H. Then Shawn decides, well, wait a second, I can't challenge you for a match. Ventura's like, hey, why don't you try this? He's whispering in his ear. Shawn makes triple threat. Triple H, Stone Cold, and The Undertaker. And there we go. It's gonna be that match. So okay, triple threat later that night. Cool. And then we have backstage, well, not backstage, but earlier today, where there just happens to be a WWE camera there. D'Lo Brown is helping get Mark Henry into shape, and Mark Henry's like, I need to go use the bathroom and this kind of stuff. So he goes there. And D'Lo, by this point, was the Intercontinental and European champion. Because he would lose both those titles at SummerSlam 99 just a little bit later. Jeff Jarrett pulls up, and of course Jeff Jarrett beating, the Southern man beating down a black man, smashing him against a tree, news at 11. And Deborah's yelling at him to get back in the car, get back in the car, and then so Jarrett beats him up in something like the worst ways. He barely pushes him in the tree. It's all this kind of bullshit and everything. It's just fucking stupid. It's just so fucking stupid. He does that. And then runs off and everything, and they chase away. And yeah, we're at our second match finally, and it's Jeff Jarrett with Deborah versus Val Venis. This match was about 2 minutes because Deborah tries to distract, but Jarrett almost runs into her, and then Val Venis hits a Blue Thunderbomb 1, 2, 3. That's really where we were going. And Jeff Jarrett was going to be gone from the company about 2 months after this, about almost 2.5 months after this, because. And I will probably actually review No Mercy 99 just to see how well that pay-per-view's aged. But yeah, that's what happened. Jarrett then is berating Deborah. You're always screwing up. You're always screwing up. It's where Jarrett would turn into a misogynist and that kind of stuff and hit Fabulous Moolah over the head with a guitar, which is what he should have fucking done a while ago. That's what somebody should have done to Fabulous Moolah, the piece of shit that she is. But anyway, then Val Venis comes down and saves her. We get that alliance or something or whatever. Deborah was not featured on TV much after this, I think, for a bit. It's kind of messy, though, as far as, remembering these characters. But anyway, we then get Stone Cold Steve Austin suddenly being laid out, found laid out, in a stairwell with a cinder block, a smashed cinder block near him. Which should probably kill somebody, and that's kind of important here for a little bit later. And Shawn Michaels is like, what the hell's going on? And, sees Triple H, and Triple H is like, what's going on? We don't actually find out who attacked Austin, even though we got a pretty good idea it's probably Triple H. Shawn then comes down to the ring and slurring his words still. Not quite as bad as earlier. I don't know what the heck happened. Maybe he had some coffee or something. But look, I know that Shawn cleaned up his life, and his life was a wreck at that point. He was in a lot of pain. I get it. But just God, he was in no condition to be on TV at this point. It was really bad. But then he calls out Triple H. And he decides, okay, well, Austin is taken out. Austin can't be there. So guess what? It's going to be now a Falls Count Anywhere match. And it's going to be a number one contenders match. Triple H's number one contendership at SummerSlam is on the line. It's going to be, with Shawn as the ref, and he says it's going to be Triple H. It's going to be Undertaker. Undertaker, who's in a match at SummerSlam by this point, a tag title match. I think. They really slapped these cards together really, really quickly and everything, and at the last minute, and oh wait, I'm describing current WWE again. But then he names Chyna as the third entrant. And, of course, Triple H says no place for a woman. She could get hurt. And, yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later. That's just some stuff Triple H said. To plant the seeds and everything, to plant the seeds in the fertile soil and have fun in seeing that. But, yeah, we then get Kane and xPac versus the Acolytes. It was 4 minutes. It was 4 minutes, maybe. It was not the Madonna Justin Timberlake song. The Acolytes beat up xPac for a little bit, then Kane gets a hot tag, but xPac ends up being the legal man a little bit later. Hits the X Factor on Farouk, 1, 2, 3. They're the tag champs. Road Dogg runs down to celebrate. Hey, cool, we're part DX because Billy Gunn, Triple H, and Chyna are all off doing their own thing. Billy Gunn, who was the king of the ring, by the way, at this point, but Kane, Kane was going to use a weird, vibrating voice box thing to do his whole voice, but xPac's like, no, you don't need that. Say the words. And Kane is like, we got 2 words for you. Suck it. He does that because he's like, trying to pretend like he can't talk, even though it was obvious once Kane was able to talk that he was a pretty eloquent talker, and now he's the current mayor of Knox County. What the fuck is 2019? I know he won it last year, but still, it's just 2019 is wild in wrestling. And then we get Taker and Show running down to attack and everything. That's basically to hype up that tag title match later at SummerSlam. While Taker is in a number 1 contenders match to, possibly face Stone Cold. The fuck is this show? We think it's GTV. What the fuck was GTV? Apparently Goldust is supposed to be behind it. Or somebody. I don't know. Somebody voyeuristic. And voyeuristic. I can talk. Hi. Billy Gunn is getting some kind of herbal cream put on his ass. That's literally the TV that we're doing here. Billy Gunn, the King of the Ring winner. Whatever. I mean, he was Mr. Ass. Mr. Ass. And then Joey Abs, with Shane on commentary, is taking on, and Steve Blackman took on Ken Shamrock and Test. Test have been taking out various members of the Mean Street Posse. He, destroyed Pete Gas, cracking some ribs and everything, and busting his neck. And then busted, Rodney's arm and stuff like that. And Joey Abs, I think Joey Abs was the only trained wrestler out of, any of them. I don't think the other guys really were. And this was actually mainly to hype the whole love her or leave her match, Greenwich Street fight that it was between Shane and Test. And if Shane lost, he'd leave Test and Stephanie alone. Yeah, this tag match, it was just Shane attacked Test. While no one apparently saw it, the match started. The match wasn't very long. Shamrock ends up getting a kendo stick at some point. Hits Blackman. Tries to take a swing at Shane. It's a big old schmoz and a pump handle slam to Joey Abs. 1, 2, 3. And then Test, busts Joey's ankle a few times with a chair, jumping off the ropes onto it, and then jumping off the ropes onto the ankle again. Yeah. We get a Test interview where Mike's skills were not Test's biggest, strong suit. He did fine. And then we get Terry Taylor interviewing Steve Blackman, hopefully not giving Steve Blackman advice on how to deal with women in the company. Terry Taylor, you creep. But I guess it's going to be a Weapons Den match at SummerSlam. I may need to watch these. I would do retro reviews of the SummerSlam cards, some of them and everything. I just simply didn't have time because I actually planned to, and then I realized, oh wait, a little bit of a sidebar here. I got to review the G1 tournament, the New Japan G1 tournament. So fuck, I don't got time. I remember SummerSlam 99 being a big old mess. Then again, 1999 pay-per-views kind of were. They got a little better in October, which was around the time Russo left. But anyway, so we get this, we get The Rock in the ring. He's just, cutting a promo and everything, and Jericho's Millennium Countdown cuts him off. Huge pop for Chris Jericho. Biggest moment of the night easily. This was a lot of fun. And even the crowd had a whole bunch of signs. It's almost like people knew that Jericho was going to show up. And even back then, it was hard to really keep a secret because even though the internet was in its infancy, Jericho had not been seen on WCW TV for a number of months. And the idea was, well, God, he's got to go to WWE. It was pretty inventive, though. The pop was still huge. It was one of the biggest pops I think Jericho's ever gotten. This might be right up there with when he won the title for about 15 minutes, on an episode of Raw, I think in April of 2000, if I recall. April or May of 2000. But yeah, it was great stuff. The whole thing where the Raw is Jericho catchphrase is born, the Ayatollah of Rock and Rolla. And he's talking about saving WWE, and then Rock, of course, cuts him down and says, how dare you come on the Rock show and interrupt the Rock and not even have the decency to introduce yourself. What is your name? And of course, it doesn't matter. I don't know how Jericho fell for that. Good God. He called the show boring and said he was here to save it, and he knew all about it, and then he got cut down by Rock. Good God. And that was great. It was great stuff. I'm glossing over it, but if you'd see nothing else from this show, see Jericho's debut. It's great stuff. Then they proceeded to really do nothing with him for a couple months. But then Hardcore Holly's running back, knocking on doors and kicking open doors and saying, hey, you tell the Big Show, the Big Shot wants him. That's the length of this segment. And then Big Boss Man versus Road Dogg. Hardcore match, but non-title. Boss Man had the hardcore title. We get a cookie sheet to the head. We get a table. We get a chair to the head. We then get Al Snow running down. Al Snow, who's going to be facing the Big Boss Man for the title. Because this was during the whole thing of, like, you know, where it would lead to the Kennel from Hell match. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm going to have to review Unforgiven 99. I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to hate myself for it, but I'm going to have to do it. But yeah, we get that. Al Snow hits Boss Man with a pet carrier. This is right after Road Dogg had been put through a table, and then Road Dogg fell on Boss Man. 1, 2, 3. Like 2.5 minutes tops. We then get Rock versus Big Show. 4 minutes tops. Jericho runs down to attack The Rock. Distracts. Billy Gunn then runs down to attack The Rock. They end up having a kiss my ass match at SummerSlam. Because that's how you put over the King of the Ring winner. And then we get Jesse Ventura's special guest commentator for the main event. And it's Chyna, Taker, and Triple H. Shawn is the ref. Number 1 contenders match, Falls Count Anywhere. You don't think they gimmicked this one up too much, did you? It was messy. Triple H and I'm not talking the soccer player or football, you know, in other countries. Taker and Triple H battle. Chyna gets her you know, shots in. Austin shows up out of the ambulance because apparently cinder blocks of the head only keep you down for about 45 minutes or whatever it is. Runs down, knocks Triple H out with a chair, and then puts Chyna on, you know, Triple H 1, 2, 3. So Chyna wins the number 1 contenders match literally 13 days before the pay-per-view. At that point, if you're going to go in on that, why not just have Chyna in the fucking match? I mean, however people feel about Chyna as a wrestler or whatever, I'm just saying, however you feel about her, you might as well have gone with it. If one woman could have been WWE champion, why the fuck not? I mean, really, at that point, because then you could have had Chyna versus Triple H. You could have had Triple H beat her. Not literally, but for the title. You could have had you might as well have gone at that point. I mean, I'm not... Whatever. It is what it is. It's just, I find it funny that they did this and then totally changed the thing. The WWE title already didn't mean a whole lot in '99. It was something, I don't even remember what playlist I put on. I think it was the retro reviews, you know, the old school wrestling review playlist that I do, or that I have on here. But I talked about the WWE title picture in '99. At that point, you might as well just given Chyna the goddamn thing. But yeah, this Raw was silly, ridiculous. It was a mess. Sometimes an entertaining mess, but maybe 30 minutes of wrestling. The main event was like 8 minutes, 7, 8 minutes, and that was the longest match of the show. And there were like maybe 4 matches in the last hour. Or in the last 45 minutes. How sad is that? So anyway, we move on to WCW Nitro. It's in Boise, Idaho. I did not go there. I also live 8 hours from Boise. So even if I had been able to go at the time, even if I had decided to drive over there, and I probably could have gotten tickets, that would have been a long drive, especially for me at the time when I was just 18. But anyway, we get recaps of Savage abusing Mona, who was Molly Holly, by the way. Well, I mean verbally abusing her, not physically. Randy Savage never physically abused women. I love Randy, but the allegations are a little scary. Rest in peace, Randy Savage, though, because God, the guy was just intense. Still miss him to this day. Still no excuse for abusing women. But anyway, let's move on. Rodman, you know, ran down and beat him up. This is a recap of what happened on Nitro recently. Sting and Goldberg then get beat up by Sid and Rick Steiner backstage. And boy, the go-home show for Road Wild 99, they were making matches on this show for the pay-per-view. And because it was in Sturgis, it was on Saturday, not on a Sunday. So they even have an extra day. And they also had their Thunder show. Thunder was a mistake. Thunder was a fucking mistake. If Thunder had never been created, guess what? WCW still would have gone under, but it wouldn't have hastened it. Maybe we would have had a few extra years. But we get Heenan and Schiavone on commentary. Scott Hudson, who I actually think is a pretty damn good commentator. I don't know what he does. I don't know if he has anything to do with wrestling. I thought he was pretty good. He at least presented things as an actual sport. At least that's what I liked about him. He got beat up at one point, and I guess he was off TV for a bit. So Heenan and Schiavone run down the events, and then we get its final Nitro before Road Wild 99, and we start off with the six-man tag match. There were a lot of tag matches on this show. Norman Smiley, Prince Iake, and Lash LaRue, who have a great history together, have such a great history together that I totally forgot that Prince Iake was not in the artist formerly known as Prince Iake gimmick at this point. And I actually like Princess Ayukea. That should have been a female valet that he had with him. Princess Ayukea I actually thought was a pretty damn good worker. I mean, people can say what they want about his mic skills. Okay, half the people in WCW didn't have any mic skills. But it was what it was. They took on, accompanied by Raven, Vampiro and ICP, the Insane Clown Posse, Shaggy 2-Dope, and Violent J. And yes, the ICP actually wrestled in a major company. They wrestled in WWE also. Well, because they did the Oddities theme and all that stuff and everything. And fucking Christ. I like Vampiro. As far as a character and a worker and stuff like that. I like Vampiro. I thought Vampiro and Raven could have worked pretty well together. Raven would leave shortly after this. If I'm right, he would leave either right after the pay-per-view or just before the pay-per-view. This might have been his last appearance. He just was given the option, anybody could leave and, your contract would be null and void, and that's fine. And he left. But yeah, it was very odd because of the pairing of Smiley, Lash LaRue, and Prince Ayukea. And the crowd was unruly, and I can't figure out why. Maybe it's because of ICP. Look, ICP has done a lot of good charity work and stuff like that and everything. I hate their music. It's not actually music. Insane Clown Posse do not make music. It's fucking bullshit. But reading up stuff about them and what they've done with their money and what they've done for charity and stuff like that and everything, yeah, I can give them credit for that. As wrestlers, no. But I'll certainly give them credit for what they've done outside the ring and with their lives and with their fame. Yeah, we get the ICP were not very good in the ring. They just weren't. They were over with the fans, say that much. IAK gets beat up. We get Smiley in. The match is messy. The match is so fucking messy. We get a moonsault by Violent J to pin Lash LaRue while Norman Smiley was the legal man. But whatever, throw the fucking rules out the window. Ugh. And the first of 3 appearances for the Nitro Girls. Cool. I mean, they got fans to tune in. And they were just casting roles to be hot women that danced. And, there were some that they tried to put in actual feuds. Which was a mistake mainly because not a lot of fans wanted to see that. Not that the women didn't try. There just wasn't a reason to do that with them because they had just been presented as dancers for a while. And yet, let's suddenly put them in a feud. Why? Especially, my favorite was Spice, and even then, she shouldn't have been involved in anything in the ring. But, hey, whatever. I don't know what happened to a lot of the Nitro Girls, outside of a few of the famous ones. Hopefully, they're all doing well. We then get a backstage thing with the Revolution, which is Shane and Dean Douglas. They're one and the same. Shane Douglas, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, and Chris Benoit. They were known as the Revolution. Yes, Shane Douglas was actually pushed as somebody revolutionary in 1999. Imagine that. And they were talking to Dusty about opportunity. Dusty was like, okay, we're under new management and everything because Sting had recently beaten Ric Flair to earn control of WCW back and then gave it back to WCW to name proper people to put in charge and everything. And then WCW promptly fucked that up. Big shock. But then again, I think Bischoff was sent home a month and a day after this. I think he always says September 10th, 1999, which is a little scary. That's something that really sent them on a downward spiral, even though the company by that point was just having so many issues. But, okay, so opportunity and everything. Well, David Flair shows up. David Flair, who was the U.S. champion at this point, well, he gets attacked by Benoit. Well, don't worry, David. You escaped unlike Daniel. I am a fucking evil human being. Don't worry, David. Don't worry. You were totally safe. Benoit didn't have his Bowflex machine. I'm going to make this worse because it's what I do. David Flair, to be fair to Flair, he did what he could. He wasn't worth anything in the ring. He was also put out there way too goddamn soon. And then Dusty decides, well, hey, Benoit put the crossface on David Flair. The referee, people were there to pull Benoit off of there, so at least, David Flair didn't, pass out. I'm making this worse. I'm adding kerosene to this fire. But moving on, Dusty makes a match. Benoit versus David Flair for the U.S. title later that night. And then Public Enemy versus Kurt Hennig and Barry Windham with Bobby Duncan Jr. and Kendall Windham at ringside. West Texas Rednecks, easy for me to say. I love that. I just fucking love that stable. I love the fact there was actually decent tag wrestling at the beginning because Public Enemy were not necessarily known as being great wrestlers, even though they actually were pretty good in the ring, especially Rocco Rock. They were mostly known just go out there and be the guys with the tables and all that shit and everything. But at one point, Rocco puts Wyndham through a table. Well, like, does the thing where Wyndham's on the table and then Rocco Rock does the thing over. And then Hennig still pins Johnny Grunge inside. So a way to take away everything with Public Enemy. But that was what Public Enemy did not last much longer in WCW after this. Because this was shortly after the beatdown that they suffered at the hands of the Acolytes. Or a couple months after. But yeah, it was really quick. It was a quick match. And then we get Little Genie, who I have no memory of. I'm not knocking at all. She's a female wrestler. I don't know who she is. Apparently she had a number of matches in WCW and then worked other promotions afterwards. I have no memory of her. And I'm sorry, this is when WCW was trying to have a women's division and it just didn't work. Not that the women weren't talented, but by this point, WCW had done away with everything they could have with their women's, title and all that. There was no way this was going to work. It just wasn't going to work at all. Again, not for lack of talent. The fans just weren't given a reason to be invested. Faced off against Mona in a dress. Well, then she, took some of that off or whatever, and it was gear. Mona, of course, Molly Holly. Actually, good mat wrestling. There was some good stuff. It was in the end, Little Genie got some shots in, but Mona got a surfboard, variation pin. 1, 2, 3. And then a woman named Brandy Alexander. I don't know who that is either. I have very fleeting memories of some stuff in WCW. Because they were throwing everything at the wall, trying to make it work and everything. But Mona fights her off. And then we get Hogan with Nick. Nick. And I believe that was Nick, if I remember correctly. This was pre-Nick Hogan, crashing his car and sending his best friend into a vegetative state. But he's a good boy. Really should have been jailed for like about 50 years for what he did there. But anyway, Hogan, talks to his son. Wait a second. Nick suddenly got something red and yellow and he says, wait, keep it. I got to go for an interview. And then Sid, Rick, and Nash attacking. And then we get Goldberg and Sting coming out to save Hogan. And this thing went on for fucking ever. And I'm not going to try to waste too much time on this because I got limited time and I also got more shit to cover. For about an hour into the show, because if you take out the commercials and everything, this is about an hour into the show. They just talked and talked and talked and talked. And Hogan's like, my friends and everything, I'm putting my career on the line against you, Nash, with my WCW title, my career on the line. But how about we have a 6-man, and if we win, if we beat you, you put your career on the line at Road Wild 99. You don't think they gimmicked this bullshit up too much, did you? Oh, it just was so goddamn messy and fucking ridiculous and went on forever. Don't get me wrong, the star power was there. And Rick Steiner. And Rick Steiner is a star, do not get me wrong, but in 99, no, he wasn't. He was a better tag wrestler than he was a singles wrestler. But yeah, so we get that 6-man tag later. We then get David Flair versus Vittori versus Chris Benoit. And Asia, I think, was also there. Asia with a Y, like China. Do you get it? And that's nothing against the woman. It just was so obvious what they were trying to do. But anyway, Charles Robinson wants to be the ref. Nope, he gets sent away because WCW's under new management. And I believe it was Nick Patrick that was the ref. And then the Revolution comes and stops Ric Flair from leaving. Well, Douglas, Malenko, and Saturn. And, of course, at one point, Tony Schiavone says, now Benoit with a little rage coming out here. Well, not for about 8 more years. I'm goddamn fucking evil. This is how I compartmentalize with tragedy, by the way, folks. So suddenly, the New Jersey Triad runs down. They get fought off. That's Canyon, Bam Bam Bigelow, and DDP, by the way. We're actually a pretty underappreciated trio. It didn't last very long, but anyway. Diving headbutt pins David Flair 1, 2, 3. And, okay, Benoit is suddenly the new U.S. champion. Thank God. It wasn't that David Flair didn't try. Again, he was just put out there too soon. But at least the U.S. title's on somebody, credible. And then DDP attacks Benoit. And then Benoit makes a match. It says, hey, you face me for the title at Road Wild 99. Okay. That's pretty much it. At least it got the title off of David Flair. We then get an interview with Randy Savage. It's hyped for his match with Dennis Rodman at Road Wild 99. Let me say that again. Dennis Rodman versus Randy Savage at Road Wild 99. You want to know what WCW, or what, Randy Savage's final WCW pay-per-view match was? Against Dennis Rodman at Road Wild 99. That's how you treat Randy Savage. Rodman did what he could. Just, that's how you treat Randy Savage. Yeah, whatever. They seem to have fun. I don't care. He does run down Rodman and runs down a bunch of people. And then we go to David Taylor and Chris Adams versus Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. I have no memory of Chris Adams being in WCW in 99. None. David Taylor, pretty underappreciated worker. But whatever. Chris Adams can still throw a hell of a super kick. Unfortunately, that's about all he could do by this point, because he had a lot of personal issues and a lot of shit. And the fact that he probably wasn't that good of a human being if you read up on him. But also, Ray was in prison gear for some reason. Because racism, I imagine. And also, Ray, unmasked, looks like he was about 14 years old. His mask gave him his identity. The match wasn't much. It was decent. Again, a lot of tag matches on this show. Frankensteiner by Rey Mysterio, Frog Splash onto Chris Adams. 1, 2, 3. And then we get Vampiro and the ICP running down to attack because they're part of a 6-man match against Ray, Eddie, and Kidman at Road Wild 99. Okay. Keep that in mind. Now, Kidman runs down and evens the odds and all that stuff and chases everybody off. The next segment, Kidman is making his entrance for a match with Disco Inferno. Why the fuck didn't Kidman just stay out there? Like, seriously, you didn't need to do that. He was literally just out there. Just leave him in there and Disco Inferno comes out. You don't have to waste the time. Hey, let me walk back there and make my entrance. Oh, God, Kidman, we haven't seen him in about 3 minutes. Fuck. Who the hell did this pacing for this show? Yeah, and poor boy, just rest holds by Disco Inferno. Disco really could not wrestle. I mean, to the shock of nobody. Well, I mean, Kidman comes down, or Kidman, tries a whole bunch of stuff. He tries to carry Disco Inferno to a good match, which is difficult. Vampiro comes down, causes a DQ, and then Eddie Ray come out and help Kidman. So really all we had was the same goddamn thing that we had before. Just the same goddamn bullshit. And then we get recaps of more stuff, like the main event tag match with Hogan, Sting, Goldberg, and all those guys. And then we get Buff Bagwell talking about facing Ernest Miller. When you're making me cheer Buff Bagwell in a match, that's saying something. We can then get Buff Bagwell versus Scott Norton. Scott Norton, former IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Well, Norton, still a hard hitter at this point. I mean, I'm sure he even still is now. I wouldn't fucking mess with him. Then Ernest Miller and Sonny Ono are there. And then, God, they're at ringside. There's so much interference. And I think Buff won by DQ. I don't know. I don't care. He does hit the Buff blockbuster on Sonny Ono. And then we get the Triad out for a promo. That match was maybe 5 minutes. I don't even think it was that long. The New Jersey Triad are out there. We then get Booker T with Stevie Ray versus Kanyon. The rest of the Triad sent to the back. But then, it's sloppy. There's a ref bump. Which is sad because Kanyon and Booker T should be able to have a goddamn good, match if you give them about 8-10 minutes. At least at this point. Not now so much. Poor Kanyon. But a ref bump. The Triad comes out, lays out Booker T. Tag belt to the back of the Booker T's head. Flatliner, 1, 2, 3. Kanyon wins. 3-4 minutes, tops. I don't even know. It might have been 5 minutes. I don't remember. Mean Gene interview with Dennis Rodman. I did not understand him at all, except he was going to make Gorgeous George, not that one, but the buxom blonde that Randy Savage had with him. He's going to make her his bitch. Yay, sexism. Hey, let's make women our property. So, anyway, Savage tries to get at Rodman. And then we get to the main event match. Kevin Nash, Rick Steiner, Sid Vicious versus Sting, Goldberg, and Hulk Hogan. Goldberg coming out to Megadeth. A Megadeth song was just weird. It was just bizarre. It made no sense. Oh, whatever. I mean, hey, if he was happy and if they were happy, that's okay. It's just weird. Hogan returns. Suddenly his old music and everything, American Made. He's got the red and yellow on. Crowd pops huge. And I don't blame him. I popped huge when I watched this. I was also 18 years old and like, hey, look, Hogan's back in the red and yellow for the first time in just over 3 years. It was about 3 years, about 3 years and a month. 3 years, a month, and 2 days, actually. And it was certainly impressive. I mean, the match was just freaking slop because it was just a whole bunch of main event guys and Rick Steiner. And I'm sorry to throw Rick Steiner under the bus like that. Rick Steiner was a great TV champion. He was a great, mid-card singles champion, a great tag team champion. He just didn't look like he belonged here with all these other guys. But he held his own, don't get me wrong. Rick Steiner is still legit tough in the ring. It did have a huge fight feel. Big old schmoz at the end. There's chair swinging. Hogan ends up hitting Sid with a chair. I mean, Goldberg did hit this one impressive slam where he just picked up Sid like he was nothing. And Sid was about 320 at this point. Like Sid tall, just cut to hell. He was still, he was a friggin' hoss, and Goldberg picked him up like crazy, like he was nothing. So ends up having chair swinging. We get a chair to the back of Sid, chair to the back of Nash. Sting puts on the Scorpion, and because Nash can't answer the refs, talk, he ends up being declared the loser. So Hogan's team wins. So not Goldberg, because Goldberg's facing Rick Steiner. Hogan and Nash's careers are on the line, and Hogan's WCW title is on the line. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty bad that was about it. Now, realistically, this is about the best I can do covering 5 hours of wrestling. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. But yeah, these shows were messes. Like, Nitro at this point, despite the talent, it just felt like nothing made any sense. But anyway, that's what I have to say. Agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritland. I will see you soon.